Toleration, be the love. Before pride and exaltation, be the love. Be the love.
You are listening to Be the Love, transcending through the shadows into a higher state of consciousness. We are souls on the journey, opening up the conversation to heal, awaken, and connect ourselves and the planet to a higher vibration of love frequency. It starts with you. Everything you need is within you. This is your time. I am Stacy Musial.
And I am Sam Fernandez, and we are your co-hosts at Be the Love podcast. Thank you for tuning in and ascending with us. Hop on board the Ascension Bus.
I'm Lara from Light Coast by Lara. I'm the Tigers of the Light.
This is Brad Panopoulos.
Hi guys, this is Nina Sauer.
This is Dig with Sacred Fire Arts.
Namaste. My name is Istola Joy Davy, and you're listening to Be the Love podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Be the Love, transcending through the shadows. I am Stacy Musial.
And I am Sam Fernandez.
And we are your co-hosts and souls on the journey. And thank you so much again for tuning in this week. And if you've enjoyed listening to our show, we'd be so grateful for a 5-star written review on iTunes. Reviews really help the show become more visible and spread the word to others. And if it feels safe for you, I'd like to begin by inviting you to take a moment to get centered with us. I'd like to begin by inviting you to take a beautiful cleansing breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, releasing anything that is keeping you from being present. And take another deep breath in through your nose, breathing in calm, peaceful, loving energy, and breathing out anything you are ready to release in this moment. And take one more breath in through your nose, breathing in light and love for yourself, and breathe out that light and love and sending it to all of humanity, remembering that you always have your breath to come back to. Today we have Katie Elizabeth Chonacas, aka KYRIAKI. She's an artist and has been in the entertainment industry for 2 decades. Katie is currently the first NFT artist to release a poem on love on the blockchain. She's also a published author who recently released her book called A Lover's Fairytale. Katie is an artist, an actor, a producer, a director, a musician, a voiceover artist, an industry coach, a spoken word poetry artist, a podcaster, a published author, and a mental health advocate. She loves talking about health and wellness on her podcast. She's all over the place. So thank you so much for being here with us today, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me and the beautiful introduction. I'm so excited to be here and everything you just said. Yes, 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 and more yes. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah.
And so first, tell us a little bit about what started you out on your spiritual journey and what led you up to this point.
Sure. I'm very grateful on a macro level. My birthday's 11/11, so I'm attuned to the vibration and the frequency of infinity of 11/11, understanding, the power of one, and we're all one. And also I was born into Greek roots. So I grew up with Greek mythology and Plato, Socrates, and all the, the language and the philosophers. And that was kind of my upbringing and growing up in the Greek Orthodox Christian church. It really gave me an understanding of religion and culture and a rock and a foundation to understand faith and hope and to believe in something greater than myself. And with that principle, not only with self, as I'm a Scorpio, so as an observational being on the planet, being able to take a seat to observe that each individual has their own faith and religion and language that we were taught. So understanding these dynamics really gave me a really in-depth insight to understand Vietnamese culture and culture in France, and just all different kinds of food and language and culture and tonality, and knowing I speak Greek, but if I was in the south of France with a friend or with my Vietnamese family or in Italy and people were speaking, even though I didn't maybe understand exactly what they were saying, I could hear the tone, from a vibe, a frequency, like a vibe, like, if someone's like talking about you, or if like everyone's enjoying the song, or if someone's mad or upset based on their emotion. So I was always observing emotions, and language, and the tone of how the vibration of how people, spoke. Lastly, growing up in the church, with the language, there was also hymns and Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, and that's where the word starts, and the vibrations of the sound that we all, I don't even know how many different languages there are, over like 300, over 6,000. There's over 6,000 islands in Greece, but I'm not sure how many languages there are to date. But it all stems from a chant, right? When you're doing a Tibetan chant, a Kundalini chant, any chant, a hum or a om, like it all starts from that. So I was able to root in vibration of meditation, growing up in the Greek Orthodox Church. So I thought that was just like a really cool rock rooted upbringing that made me like a solid oak tree from within. Yeah.
Wow, that's really beautiful. And I want to just say, you said your birthday is on 11/11. That's when this podcast birthed, actually, too. I received this amazing download on 11/11. So it's a very powerful vibrational frequency.
Definitely. And I feel so blessed because it's like 11:11 in the morning, 11:11 at night. We get it twice a day, and it's like I am the gift, 11:11, and we are the gift. We all as individuals are the gift, right? And my dad's birthday is 11/11 too, so I'm like, I always tease him, like, I'm the best birthday gift you'll ever get.
I love that. It's such a powerful frequency. And so, so tell us a little bit more about it sounds like you really were able to tap in at a very young age at the frequencies and trust in what you're receiving and how your body was receiving that. So tell us a little bit more about what that was like for you and how you've been able to use that.
Sure. I also really want to, pay homage to, my parents, because they were kids having kids at 18, 19. So, my family immigrated from Greece, my dad's side of the family, for a better life for, for themselves, their family, and then ultimately for us. So it's generational, and because of their humble beginnings and their roots coming here, and then my parents, being 18 and having my sister, then having me, as teenagers, I couldn't imagine like having a kid when I was 18 or 19, but they worked, they did the traditional 9-to-5 job, and they worked, and they provided, and they put us in school, and they fed us. So we grew up very independent. My mom's very independent. My dad is, and, my mom taught me, about like hygienically taking care of myself, like all those like things for like, my body and things. And then my dad, with the culture, and he was a cross country runner. So it taught me short-term, medium-term, long-term goals. And it gave me the foresight. So it gave me a discipline as a youngster to like get involved in sports, to have this really strong foundation. And so because of my parents and them instilling those values within myself, it really gave me the space to find my own soul and find my own journey, and literally have a lot of quote unquote, what, most people would call time to ask questions or play or explore, be interested in, and get involved in different things. Cause I literally like had space. And, we all take up our own space. Like we all like our own space. At my big fat Greek wedding, we like our own spaces, like I need a room just to think. So it's kind of like it started my journey, and it really, helped me to be able to tap into these things and the silence and be able to quiet the mind and have that level of intuition of my spleen, of those hits, of that little voice, of that little flame, and voices telling me, like that voice telling me, like, it's sacred, it's a gift, this is life. And most people, when they're that young, they're so distracted by electronics and noise. And I wasn't really into TV. I liked My Little Pony. I liked my like Rainbow Bright, Care Bears, but I was never into like scary movies. And I preferred solitude and silence and just writing. I was really big into writing. So I was able to kind of play and explore with those kind of things at a very young age.
So it sounds like you had a really strong roots with what you wanted to do and just like those seeds that were planted at that time. And so tell us how that influenced where you are now.
Sure. Well, that's a really big question. But I guess stemming from that to now, I was like, when I was a kid, I was a bird in a cage, and I just wanted to like bust out and expand my wings and just travel and be a seeker and see the world. And I was a poet, and I wanted to be a published poet. And there wasn't Amazon, there wasn't self-publishing, and there was all the barriers and all the hoops you had to go through to find a publisher, to find someone who wanted to represent you outside of yourself, not empowering self, but having a power outside of yourself to get someone to say yes, to open up a door. And then once you get an appointment or get a door, do you like my work? Like, is it your kind of vibe? Like, what if it was unique on its own and it wasn't in the realm of what they were publishing? So, I'm always like a kid in a candy store. Where's one place in the world I haven't been that I could go to? And I'm like, and then just make it happen. But since the pandemic was happening, then I wasn't traveling anywhere. So I'm like, my birthday's coming up 11/11. What is one thing I've always wanted to do? I pivoted the shift in consciousness. I pivoted my thought. What's one thing I've always wanted to do that I haven't done yet? And that was, I've always wanted to be a published poet, and I have all these poems. And so I decided to give myself a hard stop of a few months. And then I did some research, and I put together 11 pieces that I wrote during my world travels. It's called The Lover's Fairytale. And then I decided on World Poetry Day, I was going to release my first poetry book. And I write about love. It doesn't matter what kind of love, but I write about all sorts of love. And this specific book, it's all, I don't want to say positive love, but it's whimsical. It's a fairy tale. The third one, called Numb, is one that kind of goes into a different depth of sorrow and hurt and pain. But most of them are pretty whimsical in their own right. But my dear friend Robert Sturman is an amazing artist. He's actually on my podcast next week. He and I did a series together with the original Polaroid that was discontinued in 2001. So they're very, very, they're very rare. And I was thinking, I want art. I like art on art on art on art. So I'm like, how can I was like thinking, coupling the pieces with images. And I thought, you know what? I asked Robert Sturman, it came into my head. I'm like, is it okay? And he's like, yeah, of course, we did these together. They're half yours. And so he gave me full permission, and I put these photos, because when we did this series, it was the essence of my being and my spirit of who I was and where my soul was going on the journey. So I thought it was really apropos to be able to release these photos coupled with the poetry. And then I decided, I got a loversfairytale.com. And then I, as a musician, as a spoken word poet and a producer, and I created all, because these are some of my favorite pieces, these 11 pieces. That's why I chose these ones. And some of these pieces, I produce spoken word music videos. So when you go to loversfairytale.com or my website, chonacas.com, and you put in your email, I have an automation set up where you can put in your email and I send you a playlist of a lover's fairy tale, and you can hear and see from the vibration of my soul and who I am and who I was at that moment. And I self-produced them all, directed, produced, got the locations, got the people, the hair, the makeup, like everything from pre-production to the idea, to the visual, to the post-production. And so during the pandemic, I'm like, I had no idea, because in life we're creating. You're like, why am I doing this? And you don't know, you just do it. So when you're creating, then honing it all in. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm releasing the book, and I'm not a marketer or branding person by any means. I'm like, oh, I can take a decade of these, my experiences and kind of repackage it and re-release it to the world, because it has its own body of work. Like I created an arm, I created a leg, I created these things. And then they all kind of came together, and I kind of tied them in a bow.
Wow, that sounds really beautiful. I'm wondering if you would be open to reading us a poem or an excerpt and telling us kind of what the meaning behind that is for you. Would that be something you'd be open to?
Oh, I would love to. I would love to. Ooh. Let's see. Let's see which piece. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go to this one. It's called I Almost Lost My Heart in Monaco.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful photo.
And so I was at a photo shoot that day, and that's paint on my body. And then I went to Robert's afterwards, and he took a photo of me like that. But it looks like a painting, because he took these tools and he carves into the Polaroid. And so it looks like a painting, but it's actually a photograph. Yeah. Okay. So this one's called True Love. It's called I Almost Lost My Heart in Monaco. Okay. I almost lost my heart in Monaco. Can you believe it? It was that night, that day, when I saw his pretty blue eyes and blonde hair that certainly swayed my way. I will never forget his smile, his touch, his eyes, and the way he spoke to me of poetry, of life, the excitement in his unique voice, the pleasures of my ears. I wanted to hear more as we walked to billionaires. The longest mile I've ever walked, listening to my new pair, singing in the rain, all pleasures, no stares. He didn't even tell me his name, and I was wooed with all he had to say. A live person, a real artist who had me right away. The spunk of his nature, the glee in his voice. Just then I knew a new love was to be true. A seek, a pleasure, is what I love best. A sweet, sweet treasure. I almost lost my heart in Monaco. We danced and had so much fun. We danced, and he tried to kiss me more than just once. We had just met. Everyone was watching. I really wanted to, but I knew it was not proper. Not proper in front of all these people we had just met. I almost lost my heart in Monaco. Who would have thought? Who would have known? We lasted all night with him by my side as we cruised to Tip Top, and he made an announcement of me being his bride. Not once, not twice, but many times over. Could you imagine? I almost lost my heart in Monaco. He didn't want to leave. I wanted him to stay, but I knew for when the morning came, I looked better in his eyes as a dream. And me too, for him as a dream. We all met later the next day at the Monte Carlo Bay Beach Club for lunch. He didn't even tell me his name. Naturally, I was sitting next to him, and we were coy, and enjoyed our stay, chit-chatting, making combo, talking about our favorite fruits, his banana, and mine too. I almost lost my heart in Monaco. I had to split, off to do an interview for TV7, the largest TV network in Bulgaria. I didn't think twice. My heart was solid and strong. Later on, we all met up again. I'm not exactly sure what happened. I'm not even sure I can get to the end. All I know is I almost lost my heart in Monaco. We were at Jimmy's, the coolest place to be. He was with me, sitting close to me. We were all dancing. He was dancing with everyone. I was a beauty light, I was a strong, confident woman. As I was sitting on the booth top, feeling grand as Paris scrolled by, I was there with my German love, putting my hands through his blonde locks, thinking he's all mine. He sat up right next to me and put his hands in my hair, and my favorite black heart earring fell out of my ear and onto my lap. And I looked at him sweetly and told him, I almost lost my heart. I almost lost my heart in Monaco.
Thank you for sharing that. It's beautiful.
My
Tell
pleasure.
tell us a little bit about like the meaning behind that for you.
Sure. I really feel well, the stuff that I say actually happens. So if I walk you through it, it's really cool. So when I travel, I feel, we're all in our circumstances day to day life. The you wake up, you brush your teeth, you do this, you do that, whatever your routines are. And then you start to slowly remember who you are. And then the rest of the day's on autopilot. So I always feel when I travel, I'm just like, so free. When I'm out of LA, when I'm out of New York, I'm just like so different, I'm just like, just like there's this unhinged, there's a difference. So, and it's whimsical and it's a fantasy and you're on the water. So when I was in Monaco, I met, it was during the Grand Prix. It was during the Cannes Film Festival, which is the same weekend as the Grand Prix. And I was with a friend and she was dating this person, and like a lot of the Germans go there for the Grand Prix. It's like a weekend that they all go to. It's like a big thing. And so I was introduced to this younger brother, and Constantine's his name, and he's like a young hot Johnny Depp, like so good. And so like I was like, young and just like totally fell for him. I was like Kate Moss. He was like Johnny Depp. And so he was just like amazing. And like I said, like there was a big group of us and like I didn't know his name. And like you're in Monaco, like where the race is going to be, like for the Grand Prix. And like we're walking and like literally just like walking in heels uphill for like, it's like the longest mile I've ever walked. And we cruise to Tip Top, and it's a real place. It's called Tip Top. It's a place you can like Google it. And he was like so ecstatic because we were talking about art and poetry, and he really made an announcement of me being his bride, and I was like so excited. And so Monte Carlo Bay Beach Club, it's a real place. And naturally we were sitting next to each other, and everyone got together for lunch, and we went to lunch and we were chit chatting. And then I literally had to split. I was doing an interview with, TV7. It's the largest network in Bulgaria. And I was at this like one like beautiful hotel in Monaco, and literally like I felt like Angelina Jolie. Like, I mean, the way they treated me, though, it was just like phenomenal. And I was doing an interview, and they played my interview during the Grand Prix with like everyone there, and it was like whoa. And then they had me on a special tour with the official artist of the Grand Prix that year in 2009. And then at nighttime, there's a place called Jimmy's. It's with a Z. It's a real place. And it's like where everyone goes. There's like booths, and it's like everyone goes to like Jimmy's. In Paris, Hilton, like as she went by, she's there. And like as she goes by, I think Nikki was there with her sister too. And I'm sitting on the booth top. Everyone's dancing. And I'm sitting on the booth top, and he's dancing. And literally like I have black onyx earrings, and they're shaped as a heart. And he came and put his arm next to me, and it ripped out, my earring came out of my ear and fell onto my lap. And so I almost lost my heart in Monaco. So it's like, I guess you would call it like a double entendre kind of thing. So it's like, I almost lost my heart. I almost lost my heart in Monaco. Like I'm talking about my earring while I'm talking about my experience, but like I had a love that I fell in love with, during that time. Yes. So that's kind of like some of the vibes of the meaning of the.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's kind
I'm
of a
also
long one.
No, I'm also curious. So sometimes those kinds of experiences can be really life-changing and, kind of plant seeds. And so I'm just curious, like how do you feel like that experience, what you wrote about and just meeting that, person, almost losing your heart there. And, how did that change maybe the trajectory of your life or like plant seeds or, what would you say that how that maybe shaped your thought process or your own frequency, I guess.
Well, I think I'm just living proof of the fantasy and how those miracles can come true. Like you can go and meet someone and it can change your life. So I think through my vessel and my experience, I'm gifting. That's why it was so important for me to get my language and my work out there instead of keeping it all for myself, because I'm giving other people, other humans, hope that they can go and meet someone in another country and it could happen. And I mean, I'm not saying I had so many people I, went and had this experience with, but different places I traveled to, Brazil and so many places. I definitely like Italy. I mean, I was on a ship once and I met someone who was like island hopping, and this person lived in Italy, and I ended up going to Italy and being with this person and being introduced to their family. So, you can have different experiences, and I'm living proof of that. And to get outside of myself and to make an impact for discovery and to never sell yourself short and to get out of circumstances and confined spaces. And because we get so trapped within our own thoughts and our own spaces, but to take a leap of faith and breaking the barriers of like, oh, I can't afford to, or like, oh, you're lucky, or like, yeah, for you, or good on you, or someone who's being jaded, you're just judging. And when you judge other people, you're just judging yourself. And when we're comparing to others, it's a death threat. We can't compare. To others. And so, it doesn't, like when you're actually internationally traveling, there's a lot of vagabonds, there's a lot of, like people traveling and actually when you actually get outside of your own circumstances internationally, people are so warm and welcoming and cultured. And it's not about the money. It's not about the three-dimensional world and the superficiality of, those things that some people are so trapped by the matrix, or they're so trapped by and conditioned, and brainwashed from the news that, we're very primal beings. And then we get domesticated at a very, very young age of discipline and structure's good to a point, but then knowing know within the lines, and then know how to color outside of the lines, and then always like leave space on the canvas for the unknown. And the unknown can be anything, and let that unknown, instead of be fear, let that unknown be exciting, right? And as you get older, because I've had fear bite me too, so I know how it is. And I've had to thankfully have developed friendships like with yourself, and people who are like-minded and like-spirited, to maybe have a conversation like, hey, like, like I've traveled around the world. And, I haven't in a while. And it's my first time actually, when I go somewhere, I might fly alone, but I'm always meeting someone, but I'm kind of like going on my own this time. One time when I went to Greece, but I was meeting up with a friend who talked to my yaya, and he had a helicopter, and I landed in Athens, and he had his driver pick me up and take me to the helicopter port, the heliport, or whatever it's called, the helicopter port. And then he like flew with his girlfriend to Mykonos, and they gave me like a helicopter ride. And then I landed, and they got me safely to where my godmother was with my cousin. And then I was with them only for like a long weekend, for like a week. And then the concierge, butler, drives me to the port. And then I'm going on an adventure all by myself. I take a boat to 45 minutes to Naxos all by myself. And I was exploring Greece, for a month by myself. And that was my first time as a young adult doing that. And so I had a conversation with my girlfriend, Martinique. And, when that fear bit me, and I'm like, I don't know, because I was sitting on the berm outside, and she's like, oh no, you're going to be fine. You're going to be great. And because I like-minded, spirited people to remind me, like, do you know who you are? Do you know what you've done? You're going to be great. And to give me that spirited hope, sometimes we don't have that. So it's important to develop those kind of relationships, listen to podcasts like yours, and to get more into the brainchild of the soul and the spirit and the energy, to have that belief system and that support, because it's super important to have those things.
And there's a lot of good stuff that you just said, a lot of good things to dissect there. One of the things that really stuck out of my head is when you were talking about, you called up your friend, you weren't sure if you could go on this adventure by yourself, and she said, do you know who you are, and do you know what you've done? And I think that that is a very powerful statement for any of us, especially, us that have gone through traumas, or that, are working, to become better versions of ourselves. Right. Stacy is an extensive traveler. I lived in Belize, so we kind of know, like, it is possible to get out of the box, but there are a lot of times where that fear creeps in, that fear of what if I don't make it, or, what if it's not how I wanted it to be, or what if I'm not who I wanted to be, or whatever. And then what your friend told you, do you know what you have done, I think resonates a lot with me, because, like, yeah, I've went through fear, I've went through trauma, the people listening, Stacy, all of us, we have went through these things, and we have learned these lessons to make us the people that we are now, and that we will be in the future. So, if you think about it that way, it's like, okay, well, what do I have to be afraid of? Look at what we've already done, and look at what we're going to do. If for you, if you go on that trip to Greece by yourself, for some of us, if we gain our confidence, if we say no once instead of having to say yes all the time, if we quit alcohol, if we're an addict, if we quit alcohol, if we quit drugs, something like that, what's on the other side? It's just way so much better, and that was my big takeaway from the story behind the poem. But one thing too, and you did mention as well that you're a musician. I'm a musician too, and I'm really big into frequency music, really, really big into that. And I know you have a band called Sophisticated Psychos, and I was just wondering if maybe you could, kind of tell us about the band. And, I guess you guys performed like healing frequency music and stuff. Could you tell us a little bit more about that, and maybe where people could, check you out?
Sure. Definitely. Thank you for your share. And this is amazing for everyone tuning in, because this is, how we connect and break generational trauma. And this is how we connect to break down old barriers and grids that aren't serving us anymore, to communicate and share these energetic frequencies and create a new language in a new space. And I just really want to add value to like what you were just sharing too, that percolated for me, that will shift into the Sophisticated Psychos. So one, to conclude, what happened was, when I did go on that trip as a young person, as a young adult going on a trip for the very first time, I learned so much about myself. I learned I don't need to be alone that long. Like, it's important for me to be in solitude and to be alone, but I'm like, oh, I don't need to be alone for 3-4 weeks. Like, I don't need that. Like, I'm good for like 4 to 7 days. If I want to go on a solitude trip to like Malibu or, you know, an Airbnb or something, and I need to just like recenter, like we did at the beginning of the podcast, to recenter, I need to empty my cup. I'm good for like 3-4 nights, 7 nights, depending on how I'm feeling. I'm good with emptying my cup, reading a couple books, getting with self, and then going meeting up with friends. Mm-hmm. And I learned that about myself. So I'm so excited to know, like, oh, because some people need to be by themselves, like for longer period of time. So it was a great self-discovery journey to know more in depth, to deepen the relationship with self. So then like I can be harmonious and be, you know, more communicative with other people. Like, hey, cool. Like I'm doing this thing, maybe in Malibu, or I'm going, you know, to the mountains here, or whatever, safe, you know, let people know where you are and everything, and don't go off the grid.
Right.
But then let's meet up. Right. I think, and that's for me, because I think by doing that, instead of meeting up and then having solitude, like I get all my gucky irritation and show up with my best self with my friends, have a good time, because completely empty. Also, I don't know if you're attuned to Gabor Mate, but anyone who wants to understand trauma, and like we all have trauma. We're all born with trauma. I binge Gabor Mate, MATE, on for 16 hours one day. It was like a sponge and just so healing. And I just understood my trauma so much more and understood people so much more. It's like we go to a party, we go to an event or something, and it's like we're so quick to judge, or, oh, that person said this. And it's like, oh, like, if you don't understand, if one doesn't understand, like most people don't understand, like what's going on inside of our own selves, like, how can we really understand what's going on in other side of other people? Like, other people don't even, they're so confused, and they're so with all the shields, and don't understand what's going on within them themselves, that like we're not really communicating, understanding one another, because we all have these shields up. That's why I like to be like, blah. And because I like kind of like, because it breaks the ice when I'm so vulnerable and so open. People, then you become more trustworthy when you're like, oh, what's that secret sauce? Being more vulnerable with people, then it sheds off these like quote unquote invisible layers that aren't really invisible, right? So Gabor Mate is really amazing. He also has the Wisdom of Trauma documentary. If you go to his website, you can sign up and they release it, and you can watch his documentary. So and then lastly, Roaming Free Inside the Cage is an amazing book. So I really to understand resistance, I think it's really great on those trauma topics. But shifting into the sophisticated psychos, we're mental health advocates. Nikki Scorpio is my music partner. His dad's gay, his mom's gay, his other mom is gay. So he's in artificial insemination. His mom and dad were best friends. And so he grew up in the LGBTQ plus A communities. And so he really provided a lot of insight and made me like more well-rounded human being by, gifting all of his information and his perspective, as I hope I did for him as well. And I feel like we're just like, he's a quote unquote, in human terms, you would think like he's the male, and then you would, by looking at him, and you would think I'm the female, but I have a lot of what the language would be, masculinity. I grew up like a town boy. I grew up feeling like a boy. I grew up thinking like I was always saying, oh, I should have been a boy. Like I was a mistake. I should have been a boy, because they had Anna, my sister, and then me, and then my brother. So I always thought like I was supposed to be a boy, and I always felt like a boy, and it was like really weird. And so and confusing, because no one was like talking about things. It's like, and then people weren't talking about like non-binary then, it was just like, oh, you're a lesbian, you're gay, but people really didn't even talk about that. So he's from the Bay Area. He's all into like mental health. Like he grew up in like understanding like Black Panthers and like all of that. And he educated me. And my parents grew up with they grew up safe in Detroit. And then the family, when they immigrated, they had to move out of Detroit because of the riots that were happening. And like, I didn't understand it all because I was a kid hearing about it. It was like, I was taught just like not turn a blind eye for my family, but communities like, oh, you just turn a blind eye. It's none of your business. You stay out of it. You know what I mean? It's like, I didn't grow up. I'm an empath. I didn't know the language of empath, HSP, highly sensitive persons. 16 to 20% of the people are HSP, highly sensitive people. I didn't understand the language of the world. I just was very sensitive to all of it. So I never watched the news growing up. The only like 2 times maybe I saw the news was like all the homes being burnt down and everyone murdering each other. It was like the murder capital of the world, Detroit. It's like, well, why would people want to kill each other? And why would they want to burn their own homes? And then growing up, understanding like different things. It's like, were they really burning their own homes? Oh, were drugs planted in these communities, right? To keep communities. Why would people do that? It was like, I didn't really understand the concept of it all, but that's kind of like a macro version of what I'm speaking about with brushstrokes. But then Nikki Scorpio and I teamed up and we created the Sophisticated Psychos. And I'm Greek. So Sophisticated Psychos means in Greek, wisdom minds, rooted, wisdom minds, right? And so it's that invisible line that you walk with like faith and hope of like genius or crazy, right? And so we teamed up with Subtle Energy Sciences. They're on Instagram, and they have Sophagio healing frequencies. And I grew up in the Detroit underground music scene with like all the biggest DJs from around the world, so international, before DJs were popular in Western civilization. And it was like the DJ was like right next to me, and it was like, yo, what up? And I became friends with all these DJs and stuff. And then so healing frequencies, a spiritual journey and everything. Nikki at a Conscious Life Expo met Eric Thompson, the scientist. And, during the pandemic, I was a kid in a candy store with all these solfeggio healing frequencies. And Nikki and I do music together. We also have a production team where we produce and direct union projects through my app, through SAG-AFTRA. I'm in the union. We have couples therapy, which has gone on to, international awards. And we're in the film festival circuit right now, producing this content. And then we put our music in all of our theatrical projects, short films, web series, which is on the Sophisticated Psychos YouTube channel. All our music's on the Sophisticated Psychos everywhere for free, and all the streaming channels. And since I grew up, in the electronic underground scene, I took a DJ music course in 2016 to learn the ins and outs of what it meant to be a DJ, to find out like what kind of DJ I am, what kind of sound I was, right? Because there's so many different kinds of DJs. If you want someone who's going to play Russian music, or like Greek, like at your Greek wedding, or like, there's different kinds of cultures, and hip hop DJs different. And so I love like 16 bars, 14 bars. I grew up with, electronic music. And so I created on Ableton after I took the DJ music program, and during the pandemic, since things really slowed down, I took my catalog of music and I was like, yo, I have 5 genres here. I have hypnotic energy, full house, hip hop, dubstep, trap, funk, and and drum and bass, like 6. So I'm like, yo, I have all these EPs and I'm going to release all these EPs. So October, because I'm a numbers girl, October 20th, 2020, I released my first solo EP under the Sophisticated Psychos, with 639 healing frequencies. 639 healing frequencies fosters forgiveness for self, for others, and our communities. I felt I needed to do a lot of forgiving of myself, of my past choices. I needed to do a lot of forgiving of a lot of things. And I felt like on a planetary level, we all needed to do a lot more forgiving of one another. So my vessel was attuned to 639 healing frequencies. And then throughout the months went past, my vessel moved into removing guilt and fear. And I was visiting my family in my at home. And I love house music, and DJ Bad Boy Bill is my friend, since I was, a teenager, and he's like the best house DJ in the world. And I paid homage to him and dedicated the EP to him. And I titled it Full House because I was like at home, and it was like the full circle. And also I released it on my mom's birthday because, our parents and people, they put a lot of pressure and things onto you, whether they know it or not. We take it on a psychological level. So my vessel was, after forgiveness, my vessel went to removing fear and guilt. So Full House is encoded with 396 healing frequencies, which removes the guilt and the fear. Yeah. And then I'm getting ready to release my next 3 more EPs, and they're all encoded with healing frequencies. So I'm really excited that we teamed up with Subtle Energy, Eric Thompson, the scientist, that put the healing frequencies in, and they're subtle, they're silent. And then Nikki Scorpio has these amazing solfeggio healing frequencies also in CBD. So he's encoding our music too, which is really, really cool. And my podcast is about to be encoded as well.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the vibes of healing frequencies and what we're doing. If people are attuned to it, it's not about the macro. It's like, it could be now, or it could be maybe in 5 years. It calls to you, and it's an energetic vibration and connection of meeting and hearing it and healing. And, you can listen to it while you're working out, or, cleaning the house, doing homework, So
So if someone were to go and start listening to that, and what kind of intention would they have to set to receive that healing or the frequencies?
No, like some of our music, we don't even say there's healing frequencies in it to make it a thing. Some we do. There's no need to set an intention. I mean, if you're attuned to it and you want to, cool. But it's going to happen either way, whether you're conscious of it or not. So just like when you're watching TV, like, whether you're conscious or not conscious of the brainwash and, what society's telling us and the brands are telling us, whether we're into it or not, it's in that people say that could be an energetic way of negativity. This is an energetic way of energy of positivity, and whether you're conscious of it or not. So
Katie, I'm just wondering if you could maybe tell our listeners some ways that they can use this information to improve the quality of their life and achieve their highest potential.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely say Google quantum physics. And also there's a book by Alejandro Younger. It's called Clean. It's amazing. And I think it's in the 9th chapter out of the 12th chapter. It's not only clean, like physical detoxification, but it's like noise pollution, but detoxification on a psychological level, and quantum detoxification, understanding the subtle energies of quantum detoxification. So attune to his book, and you can get it on audio for free on Overdrive. You can download up to 30 audiobooks per month for free to understand the science behind it and the meaning and the messages. So I would definitely just be attuned to like Kundalini yoga, Tibetan meditation, Google Solfeggio healing frequencies, get involved in yoga communities, just have the conversation. And the more we have the conversation like we are now and connecting with like-minded and spirited people, the more we're like a collective consciousness. And so, when we break down the justifications of not knowing, and we shift into curiosity, and we keep coming to the mat, literally the mat of life, and we come with an open heart. And why? Because we have over 40,000 neurons in our heart alone. It's a lot. And our hearts are very powerful, and we're very powerful as human beings, and our voice and our sound and our vibration, they're very, very powerful. When I DJ, when there's these DJ pools, and you can download the clean version or the dirty version. Like, I feel it's a social responsibility as a human being. What am I doing with my part? What are you doing with your part? So it's the quality of the questions and the quality of the answers from our communities, from the people we talk to, from what podcasts we listen to, the books we listen to or read, and then not only about intaking this information, but actually applying it, actually testing it out, A to B testing, like what works for you, what makes you tick, like what's for you isn't for someone else. And you're gonna find, you might feel alone. I felt alone for such a long time in so many ways, because I was confused, or I was scared, or I didn't have the communication to talk to other people. So that's why I, open my mouth and I start messy and I say it. And maybe I'm not saying it perfect, and maybe I'm not saying it right. And people are going to be like, to me, like, oh, like, well, didn't you say this? Like, to a lot of people, like, oh, didn't you say this? Yeah, maybe that's where I was, and that's what I was taught, and maybe I was ignorant at the time. But I'm evolving, and we're all evolving together. There's a really great book by Plato. It's called The Republic, and it's all about, in a nutshell, it's all about being just and unjust. So as as a human being, that's what we call ourselves, right? Human beings. As a human, it's like, are we being just or unjust? Is this just or unjust? Like it could be of a tomato. Is this like a delicious tomato, or this tomato needs to be like tossed out because I could get sick if I eat this tomato because it's not fresh anymore? Same things with the people we're connected to and the things we're listening to. Like, is this going to bring me joy and the language of happiness and fulfillment, and on a healing cellular level, like what I'm attuning to, what I'm listening to? So circling and saying, like, as a DJ, there's these DJ pools, and there's you can download the clean version or the dirty version. And if I'm at a charity event or a party, if I'm playing something, people who know the dirty version, they're going to hear it in their head, like the placebo effect. But the people who don't know the song, who are hearing it for the first time, like I'm not with like quantum detoxification and being a ripple effect. I'm not implementing that word, that sound, that vibration of something that's going to be toxic to hurt another individual. I don't want to do that. I choose not to do that. So as a creator, I feel like I have a social responsibility to be very aware of, you know, what I'm attuning to and what I'm sharing with other people. And me as a philosopher, as a seeker, you know, I went out to get this information. So I urge you to, you know, be the same and explore and discover what makes you tick and what attunes to you and what doesn't. And there's so many science out there. There's so many scientists out there and facts, and especially with Google and the resources, like be interested and just go find the books, like, you know, on whatever topic, and you can, you know, heal and attuned and understand factual information. Because when you understand the facts, then you can have a great oak tree to stand from, to be like, this isn't for me, or this is for me. So I hope the Sophisticated Psychos is for you and that you enjoy it.
Absolutely. That was, yeah, I think it's really important. You made just a lot of great points there, you know, just recognizing, one, our humanness, and two, that we really, you know, we have the responsibility to go seek out what is going to resonate with us, and everything, you know, not everything's going to resonate, but just pick and choose and find what does. And you'll be matched to that vibrational match as it comes up, and as you find, you know, and your tribe, because your tribe's going to evolve too over time, the way it's supposed to be, as you evolve and heal those layers.
You know what? I'm gonna, yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
A couple things. It's like one of my shamans, Shaman Harry Paul. You can Google him, Shaman Harry Paul. He's from New Mexico. He lives in LA. You know, he's like, we're here for one long moment. What are we choosing to do? Right? Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. Like, we're here and then we're gone. So it's up to us. Like, this visionary thing of the excitement, it kind of gives us this motivation to obtain things. That's cool. But we're not taking it with us. We might not even take our memories with us. If you know, they're trying so hard. There's so many studies on like trying to heal dementia, you know, and like people aren't even remembering their experiences and their family members and their people. Like, you know, you might not even remember your memories, like with what could be happening, especially if people are involved in toxic communities and toxic pollution and processed foods and putting these things into our body temple, right? It's our choice. We're here and it's a gift. There's a TED Talk. It's 1 in over 400 trillion that we're actually here. So the fact that we three connected here is like on a quantum level is magnificent. And then for the viewer and the person tuning in, it's not by chance that you're actually here. It's like very intentional, whether we're aware of it or not.
Absolutely. I believe there's absolutely no mistakes, right? It's all in perfect quantum divine timing, and that, you know, we have co-created this beautiful space together. Yeah. And so, Katie, tell our listeners about how they can find you and what you're currently working on.
Chonacas.com is my last name. So everywhere on Chonacas.com, you can find all my platforms. loversfairytale.com is my book. I'm on all of the social media platforms. I'm currently focused on getting on network television and becoming a household name and empowering everything we just talked about, you know, on, you know, to the masses and to more people. So I'm on this mission, and also to be a household name, not only in TV and film, but in animation voiceovers, because I do voiceovers every single day, commercials, you know, video games, things like that. So animation is my number one favorite. It's so much fun because you can be wacky and silly, and you can be big as you want, and a director can always bring you down. And it's really important to, like, you know, be big, because they can always bring you down. But if you're down, they don't know they can always like bring you bigger. And I feel like that principle applies to life too, right? Like, really go for it. Like, go for it. Make it happen, right? Why not? I know a lot of people, they're, you know, they're just so scared of what other people think and say. And I mean, even when you're going into a store and like, oh, I don't want this person to think I'm stealing something. I don't want this person to think this if I don't take it to the counter first. Like, so people are so scared. People are walking around so scared, and we need to, share to not be so scared. It's like, yeah, there's just too much of that going around, and that's not why we're here.
I agree. I think that's a big piece, of like really tapping into our sovereignty, right? And letting go of the fear that we've all been conditioned to be. And I just wanted to say too, we will put all of your links in our show notes so people can easily find you.
Okay.
And so thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing this conscious conversation. It's been really beautiful. So thank you. And thank you for listening to our show. Stay tuned for more episodes being released on Mondays at 5:55 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And if you've enjoyed listening to our show, we would absolutely love a 5-star written review on iTunes. And of course, please share the love by sharing it with your friends. And if you want to support the work that we're doing, please consider making a donation to our show by visiting our Patreon website at patreon.com/Be the Love Podcast. And until next time, love yourself, love each other, and love the world. We love you.
Love you guys. Take care, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye. We at Be the Love Podcast are honored to be supporting the Kamoti Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization in Uganda that is working to build a school that will promote and support healthcare, education, skills development, feeding the hungry, human rights, and environmental defenders. Their goal is to work with young mothers and single mothers, street children, and vulnerable families who lack nurture as they guide them to become productive individuals, which will lead to a productive generation. Please see our show notes on how to become a donor, mentor, volunteer, or sponsor.
Thank you, Heather Lynn, for providing us with your beautiful song to accompany our show, Be the Love. If you would like to learn more about Heather Lynn and her music, please visit her website at heatherlynnmusic.com. And thank you, Chrissy Grace at Leading Edge Productions for the beautiful design and graphics.
And thank you for tuning in. And until next time, we are souls on the journey. And thank you for hopping on the Ascension bus with us. And remember, there is always a seat for you.